Welcome to episode 1 of the AI Search Report. Today we'll answer, do backlinks still matter in AI search? And does Google treat AI generated content as spam? You'll also learn why geo is just overhyped SEO and how to rank on YouTube search. I'm your host, Nathan Gotch, and this episode is brought to you by Rankability, an AI SEO platform that helps you rank everywhere customers are searching. So let's get right into it. So one of the biggest questions that everyone has right now is whether backlinks still matter for AI search. So we're talking specifically about AI chat platforms like ChatGPT or Perplexity or Google Gemini, okay? Or even, I guess, Google's AI mode as well. Okay, so do backlinks, which are one of the most critical ranking factors for traditional search results, which are the blue links that we're used to, do they actually influence these AI platforms, okay? Well, SEMrush just did a little study and they found that the authority score, which is their third-party metric, by the way, this is not a score that Google uses per se, or that ChatGPT uses. It's just their own proprietary metric. They did find a correlation between having a high authority score and being a citation in the AI chat platforms. Now, this is pretty obvious that this would occur. It's good to have data to kind of prove this, but if you've been using these tools for a while, you know that typically when you look at the citations, they are usually from very authoritative websites. They are usually very trusted entities. And there's a reason for that, because we know that when ChatGPT uses retrieval, same with Perplexity and all the other ones, they tend to just go to traditional search. And each platform uses a different search engine. For ChatGPT, we know that it uses Bing. There's some evidence that it might use Google as well. We know that Perplexity also uses Bing, potentially maybe even Google as well. And we know that Claude, for example, uses the Brave search engine. So the main takeaway here is that, once again, proving that if you focus on the traditional ranking variables in traditional search, you can also increase your odds of appearing in the AI generated responses. Now, let's kind of rewind on this real quickly. So what you want to be thinking about is obviously your own website, your first party opportunity, which is growing the authority of your website. So then you can attempt to influence, at least give yourself a couple of points inside of this process. But really what you want to be thinking about is like, how do we seed our brand on as many sources of retrieval as possible? So the number one thing you want to be thinking about is like, how do we get our brand on all the top ranking results in traditional search for our most important keywords? So it's going to be those commercial based keywords, because all that ChatGPT does when it uses retrieval, it's basically just acting like a searcher. It goes and it creates queries, then it goes and searches those queries in traditional search engines, and then uses those top ranking results as a source of retrieval. Now, it doesn't use everything in those top ranking results. It will decide and pick and choose. But in general, that is what is going on. Okay, so this is more of like a proxy more than that ChatGPT necessarily uses authority score. It's not true. ChatGPT just goes to traditional search, which uses more traditional ranking variables. So be careful to kind of, say that, ChatGPT uses like backlinks as a ranking factor. That's not really true. It's really just a proxy, because, in traditional search, that is what's used to rank there, and it's going there to get its results. So just to be fair though, like, this is not anything new. I literally did a study on this in November of 2024. And funny enough, I have a video on my channel here. You can go and watch it. I'll drop it in the description below. But I talked about this but a much smaller study than what SEMrush did. I actually used SEMrush's metric in this study. And I found that the median authority score was 38. So meaning that the citations that appear in ChatGPT come from very authoritative websites. Once again, makes a lot of sense, because to rank well in traditional search, having an authoritative website tends to be very, very effective. Okay. So the other one too is, and this is one I've talked about recently a lot, which is, you don't have to worry about no follow versus do follow. You don't even have to worry if the link is clearly sponsored or not, or the brand mention is sponsored. We've actually found that you can still influence the AI generated responses just through a, number one, unlinked brand mention, but also even if the link is no follow, even if the link is sponsored, as long as your brand is appearing in one of those top ranking results or one of those top sources of retrieval, you still can influence the AI generated response. responses. So that's a very unique characteristic of AI SEO, which is, there's a lot of similarities among everything we're doing, but this is one area where like clearly it does not matter. And that was not actually the case for traditional SEO. So that's one variable that's definitely unique in this new, paradigm that we're in. Okay, so another news headline that popped up here was from Liz Reed. Okay, she said basically that Google is vigilant about low value content, AI slop, even if generated by AI. And she said, not all AI generated content is spam, but the focus is on surfacing human voice, high value content. Okay, so just wanted to bring this one up because I think a lot of people are fearful to use AI content. But at the end of the day, what really matters is that the content, number one, fulfills the intent of the keyword phrase, right? So whatever that topic is, your page properly fulfills the intent. That's the number one thing. Number two, it's relevant to that topic, and you're actually helping the person who's landing on that page to achieve whatever goal they had when they initially made that search. Okay, so you're satisfying intent, you're helping them achieve their goals. And then number three, it's actually high quality. It's actually giving value to that person. Now, value is subjective. Okay, value could just be that you're giving them enough information to make a conversion decision. That could be considered value. It could also be entertainment value. It could be education value. So, value is highly subjective, and we're working with algorithms here, and they're not particularly good at being subjective. That's not what they're good at. So I'd be, when we talk about quality is just that the person who's consuming that asset gets their goal, right? They achieve their goal by consuming that asset. If you do that, then that's what I would consider quality, right? And this is kind of, it's highly, highly subjective. But in general, don't just generate AI content and slap it on your site. Like, that's just a bad idea. It's always been a bad idea, and just don't do that. Okay. If you're going to use AI to generate the content, just backload all of the additional editorial work once that asset is created. So what we typically do is we'll generate it with AI, and then all that time that we saved by using AI, now we backload it in the editorial process to make it much better. Okay, just do that and you'll be good to go. I also want to show this one from Tim Solo, and he was just saying that the era of evergreen SEO content is over, and Tim Solo is is the CMO of Ahrefs. But I actually, I want to show you this one because I actually do agree with this quite a bit. I name it, I have kind of a different name for it, but I agree with the sentiment here, which is, I'm a big fan now these days of what I'm calling minimum viable content. Okay. And there used to be a time, and in fact, I battled it out with Tim, with, Ahrefs many, many times for various keywords that were very evergreen in nature. And really, the strategy many years ago used to be you would create a really, really epic piece of content. We're talking 7,000 words, 10,000 words, like something really huge. And that worked really well for a long time. And you could literally build this asset, spend 30, 40 hours on it, publish it, and it would rank for like sometimes years before it finally started to fall off. But that's just a terrible waste of time now. Like, that would be a really bad idea, because essentially all you would be doing is building out, spending 40 hours to train the LLMs, right? So whatever new model they're going to be training, you're just giving it the food that it needs, so then it can eliminate you. Okay, so I don't recommend that. What I would do instead is really, kind of what Tim is talking about here, which is focusing on speed. Speed of execution, speed of iteration. So for us, a lot of the time now, when we publish any asset on a website, right now, funny enough, I'm basically working on just one SEO campaign, which is rankability. But when we publish an asset, we're not publishing an A+ asset anymore. We're intentionally publishing like a B level asset. And the reason is because I want it to get crawled and indexed, and I want to get it into the market, and I want to see what happens and see where it lands, see where it starts to stabilize or plateau. And then from there, we're going to start to iterate on that asset until eventually it gets to, if it gets to the goal before it needs to be an A+, then we'll stop. But if we have to keep iterating on it until it gets to where it needs to be, and there's only so much you can do to any given page. And once you've hit kind of that A+ level, and if it's still not performing, then the next obvious move is to consider the other signals that would influence that page's performance, right? But I'm a big fan of this strategy, which is like more thinking about speed, kind of treating your content like a startup, right? And I'm a big fan of this. Okay. Another one I wanted to bring up here is, you might be seeing these statistics flying around that like AI search converts like way better than SEO. And I'm a little skeptical of these claims, especially when there's no citation and no proof of it, just kind of like numbers being thrown around. And I think I've heard before that, like, I don't know, it's like, that ironically, it's like some percentage of statistics are just made up, right? And I think that's the case a lot in marketing. I think a lot of statistics are just made up and then it just gets spread all over the place. But it's really, really hard to determine the conversion rate of AI search because number one, even in Google Analytics 4, you can only extract a very small amount of that referral traffic. And this is under the assumption that a UTM parameter was actually added to that link, and that someone was clicking on a citation inside of the AI search platform. And the way people interact on these AI platforms is that the citations are basically buried and hidden. So it's really hard to even click on a citation to get to a website. So in that regard, the level of friction to actually get a click on one of these platforms is very high. So if someone does click and they do get through to your website, it should technically have high conversion because of how much friction they had to go through to get there. But what's much more likely from a conversion perspective, which is nearly impossible to measure now at this point, is someone goes through an AI chat dialogue and they go through the full, I call it like a compressed sales journey inside of one chat. And by the end of it, they're looking for a brand to work with. Now they're ready to work with a plumber. They're ready to buy a product, whatever it may be. ChatGPT doesn't really like send people to websites. So what it will do is say, okay, these are the top brands you should work with. And what's more likely to happen is that someone's just going to go to Google and do a branded search. Okay. That's probably much more likely. And once that occurs, once there's this cross-platform situation, attribution just goes out the window. Okay. And unfortunately, when you look at Google Analytics, whatever attribution you're seeing is not typically reality. Because basically I'll just give you a small example of this. Like right now on YouTube, we publish a YouTube video, people watch 7 of our videos, and then, one day they decide, I'm going to go to Google and check out their brand, see what they're all about. They go to our website and they start a free trial on Rankability. Okay. Now, who's going to get attribution for that? Well, Google. Google will get attribution. Google search will get attribution. YouTube will not get that attribution, even though that was the original source of that person finding our brand, right? And this happens all the time. And plus, there's so many touch points that people are going through. Someone might, find you on ChatGPT and then end up on Google, then watch a YouTube video, then find you on X and then go to LinkedIn. And by the end of it, what is the original origin of that lead? You just don't know. Okay. So whenever I see any statistics talking about like hard attribution percentages, I get very skeptical because it's just so, like, any marketer knows that attribution is really, really challenging. But also even the way that the AI platforms are designed, they are similar to social media where they don't want you to leave. They do not want you to leave the platform. So they're intentionally designed this way to get you to not leave. So more than likely, if you're going to be seeing conversions, you should be tracking your branded search volume. That's a better metric to be tracking, is seeing that that's growing over time, because at least you can somewhat deduce, and you can track, obviously with a lot of new tools, even the one we're building, you can track your brand visibility inside of the AI chat platforms. But in general, branded search is going to be a big one that you're going to want to track, and you can just track that in Google Search Console. Okay, now I want to talk about this one today. So this is an article from Search Engine Land about how to plan for geo in 2026 and evolve your search strategy. So I don't normally do this, but sometimes when you see an article that's just, kind of, I hate to say this, but kind of like spreading misinformation about what we do here, I think it's important to talk about. Okay. So I'm not going to, tear up this whole article, but I want to go kind of a couple key points that are very important that could lead someone in the wrong direction. So number one, which is, okay, this is a direct quote, by the way. Generative engine optimization, GEO, isn't just another tactic. It's a new lens, a new mindset that's reshaping how we think about search, content, and customer discovery. Okay. I'm fairly certain this article was definitely AI written, just based on kind of like how it sounds, but I'm just going to, this is a very important point. It might seem very generic and why would I care about this? But the truth is, I would be careful pretending like geo is like a completely separate discipline from SEO. Yes, there are certain qualities of influencing the AI generated responses to include your brand. Yes, there are certain characteristics and variables that are unique to that, but it's not like entirely unique. It's not like we're going to a completely different paradigm. I would argue that like you could continue doing 100% of what you've been doing for traditional SEO, and that will get you about 90% of the way there. Across these platforms. Okay. The other 10% is some of the newer stuff, like I mentioned earlier, which is like getting unlinked brand mentions and trying to get your brand seated on as many of the sources of retrieval. But even then, that's always been important to do. Even from a link building perspective, you should have always been thinking about that. So it's just more that like, it's not necessarily that links are always the most important thing. Okay. And then also reviews are big. Like a lot of third-party signals are kind of the newer signals. But in general, like the standard stuff that we should be doing, which is like ranking in traditional search, ranking many placements in traditional search, building topic authority, getting links, promoting your website. Like this isn't really that new of stuff. Okay. So that's why it's getting a little silly where we're trying to pretend like it's a completely new discipline. It really is not. Okay. There's just some new variables, but in general, don't treat them as a completely separate entity. And then also, it is mentioned that ChatGPT alone is processing 72 billion messages a month. Okay. When you use big numbers like this, everything seems like, okay, there must be so much demand and so much opportunity on this platform. But the reality is when you look at the real data, this is actually from ChatGPT. Okay. They released a paper. And they said that they have 700 million weekly active users, which is a huge number. That's absolutely crazy. And they are the fifth. I think actually they just passed Instagram the other day. I think they're the fourth most popular website on the internet. Okay. But that doesn't tell you the whole story because when people use ChatGPT, they're not just going in there and searching best baseball cleats. Okay. That's not the way that most people are using the platform. And there's actual data to prove this. This is directly from ChatGPT. This is not like some made up data. About half of the messages, 49%, are what are considered asking intent. So that would mean like, treating ChatGPT as an advisor. Okay. Instead of just like asking it to write you a letter. All right. So that would be a scenario where like within that 49%, there's a very high probability that there's probably queries or prompts that have commercial intent. Okay. But we can assume that just based on how the amount of phrases, queries that have commercial intent in Google, I think it's between like 10 and 20% or something like that. So we could argue that, from that 49%, we could say like 20% of those have potentially commercial intent. So you can see how that starts to really chop down the amount of demand significantly. And then among the other types of intent, 40% are what's considered doing intent. So that means like writing a letter or creating some code or creating a free tool. Like those can somewhat lead to what would be considered commercial intent, but they're so high up in the funnel. They're so far from a conversion and any type of even brand mention that there's nothing you could really do with those. You can't really do anything with that 40%. And then 11% is what's considered expressing, meaning like it's not actually like reflection or exploration or brainstorming or just totally useless stuff, or I guess useless in the eye of the beholder, but stuff that isn't actually going to drive revenue. Okay. So we're talking about, of the many searches or many interactions that occur on ChatGPT, only a very, very small percentage of those are actually going to have commercial intent. And those are the ones obviously that we want to focus on as a business. but let's not overblow it and pretend that, all 700 million weekly active users are just searching commercial queries in there. Like, that's not the way the platform works. And that's not even how Google works either. And then another one here, which is, this is a quote, by the way, in 2026, EEAT is going nowhere. It needs to be your strategic cornerstone. Okay. This one's tough. Okay. Because the truth is, ChatGPT does not use EEAT. All right. Let's just start with that. ChatGPT and Perplexity, and Claude, which is, Anthropic, they do not use EAT. And there's a very simple reason why, because that is a criteria that was created by Google. So ChatGPT is not going to use a criteria that was created by Google. All right. So that's number one. Number two, Google has stated many, many times that EAT is not a ranking factor. It is a quality guideline that their quality raters follow, their manual reviewers, but is not actually baked into the algorithm. Now, this one kind of consolidated concept is not baked into the algorithm, according to them at least. Okay. But I do think there are some elements in the EAT model that probably do matter. As far as experience, which is actually a content related element, which is the first E, I have not found, at least and we're talking specifically in the AI search platforms, ChatGPT, I have not found that experience driven content performs any better than just regular content. I have not found that to be the case at all. And we, obviously at Rankability, we're looking at thousands and thousands of pieces of content every single day. Okay. And I have not found that, like, if you say that, you tried the pizza versus if you just say these are the best pizzas, that it makes much of a difference. I have not, there's no clear quantifiable evidence for that to be the case. So that E is basically eliminated. The next E is expertise. Once again, I have not found a correlation here between having, like, oh, do they have an author bio, or does it say that this is fact checked? Like, all those little variables don't seem to matter very much. And in fact, even on Rankability, our own website, we like, even on our blog, we don't even have an author bio box on our blog. And the author on our blog is literally Rankability. It's like our brand. It's not even like me, for example, right? It's just like Rankability, the brand. So, once again, I don't think that these platforms I think it's kind of made up. I don't think it matters, but I will say the thing that does matter is the A. So of all these little elements, the A in EAT is the most important, which goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is authoritativeness. Okay. And that's, using SEMrush's metric here, authority score, this does matter. Right. And when it comes to trust, this is what's going to make the difference, because once again, we know that links are the biggest variable in traditional search. Okay. So having a strong website is a good thing, and we should continue to do that. And going back to, I'm just going to mention this again, that ChatGPT does not have an algorithm like Google. Okay. That's not the way it works. It's basically operating as, it's using search as a proxy. So basically whatever signals that traditional search algorithms value, that's what's being considered, because ChatGPT is just going to the traditional search to extract, for retrieval. Right. So whatever is valued in those algorithms is naturally going to be surfaced in the AI chat platforms. It's pretty simple. Okay. And then the last one here, this one really got me just because geo-friendly content. Okay. This is a direct quote from this article, geo-friendly content. I can tell you there's no such thing basically as geo-friendly, geo-ready, content. Okay. Because you don't need to do anything different. There's not like a new type of content that you have to create, or a new type of page that you have to build that is specifically designed just for AI platforms. That is just not true. If you follow just conventional, AI best practices for SEO on just your page, you will do fine. So like, very simple things. Make sure that the page is easily crawlable and indexable. So that's going to also influence the AI chat platforms, because of course they're using retrieval most of the time, making sure that it's fast and making sure that it's HTML. Okay. Now, all of those things matter in traditional search. So if you just do that for traditional search, you're likely to do well in the AI platforms. Once again, some other things: place the keyword phrase in the URL title, H1 first sentence, and a variant in the H2. That's it. That's just on-page SEO 101. And then number 3, make sure you're covering the topic to the fullest extent. So whatever core topic you're going after, whether it's a commercial topic or an informational topic, you're hitting on all the relevant entities around that topic. So obviously Rankability does that, right? You go in Rankability, you enter the topic that you want to rank for, and then we show you all the entities based on the top competitors. So we're extracting those from the top competitors, and you're just emulating the success. You're not having to guess your way through this. And then making sure that at the beginning of any informational asset, you've got a TLDR, right? Too long, didn't read. You just have a little descriptive thing that gives them the answer right away, then gives people the freedom to consume the rest, right? And this is also really important even to influence the AI platforms, because they tend to pull in chunks from assets. They're not reading the whole thing, they're just extracting. So I like to call it kind of like giving the AI a little bit of bait, okay? And then obviously internal links and external links. That's like all the stuff you do for building a good SEO driven page will help you build a good geo driven page. Okay. You don't even need to say that. Just say I'm building a page that's built well for search, and you'll do just fine. And then actually the last point here from search engine land, which I do agree with, which is the future is search everywhere optimization. I don't think it's the future. I think it's already like current, and it's been this way for probably the last couple of years already. But I'm just saying this is the way I define SEO at this point, which is search everywhere optimization, because it is, you cannot just focus on your website anymore. If you just focus on your website, you're really playing, you're kind of gambling, okay? Because yes, you can get your one website to do really well, but there's also so many other opportunities to pursue, especially on YouTube, right? YouTube is first of all, ranks incredibly well in traditional Google search, but it's also a huge source of retrieval in these platforms. And there is evidence that they go directly to YouTube for retrieval. They don't even actually go to traditional search. Let's go directly to YouTube. And this is another unique variable with AI search. I won't get too deep into this, but we know that traditional search is the number one source of retrieval, but they do have direct partnerships with a lot of websites. So like ChatGPT has an API link up directly with Reddit. So it actually doesn't go to search for that. It goes directly to Reddit via API and will run searches in Reddit itself. Same thing with YouTube. YouTube obviously has an API, so they can do the same thing on that front as well. So there are these kind of direct relationships as well that you have to consider. Okay, and then the final thing I want to share today is from iPullRank. They actually did a study that they're saying why relevance engineering for video matters, how to have better visibility on YouTube and Google. So, you know, speaking of YouTube, I think this is an important one. They actually have some really good data. And it's funny, a lot of things I share like on my channel or elsewhere are always just anecdotal, typically through my experience, right? Just through pure experience, things I'm seeing, trends I'm seeing based on, you know, my anecdotal experience. But it is nice when you see like the quantifiable data to prove some of those hunches or anecdotes. Okay. So this is an example. So number one, they found based on the study that they did that one of the strongest signals to ranking well on YouTube and also videos that perform well on Google have what's called transcript relevance. Okay. And you don't need to make this super complicated. In essence, and I've shown this throughout the years, that if you go and create a transcript using the power of NLP, so you can actually literally go into Rankability and do this. And I've proven this actually in videos where if you write your transcript in a content optimization tool like Rankability, you can actually build that relevance. And then you record the video, obviously speaking the transcript, hitting on all the entities, and those videos tend to do very, very well. Okay. Now, keep in mind, if you have a brand new channel, you're going to have to do this a lot over time, but there is proof of this. Okay. That if you just pretend like you're building a really highly optimized article that's really relevant around your core keyword, but then do it in the context of a transcript, it can perform very, very well on YouTube. Okay. But keep in mind, I've been doing YouTube for a long time, and you can't just create a transcript that just sounds like an article. You have to convert it to be like a transcript. It has to sound like a video. It has to be natural. So it's not exactly apples to apples. You have to shift that asset to be YouTube centric. Okay. But yes, relevance is key. Number two, they found that subscriber count and channel authority is also highly correlated with performance. which makes a lot of sense, right? Like channels that have established authority, channels that have established topic relevance in general are going to perform much better than a brand new channel. It just makes a lot of sense. Like, for example, when I publish a video on my personal channel about SEO, it does really well almost all the time. Even in traditional search, in Google, that video will pop up, but even in YouTube search, and even my ability to get visibility on the platform itself just through browse features is significantly elevated compared to someone who's just starting a brand new channel. Okay. So there is like a situation where the rich get richer once you've got some traction on your channel. Okay. That's just the nature of it, because YouTube, of course, is going to assign more weight to someone that has a proven track record than someone that's completely new. Okay. That just makes a lot of sense. And then number 3, this was also pretty correlated, which is having the topic in your title and description. And I think the title to me is probably the most important. I think it would have been good if they were able to kind of separate those variables, because I have not found, just once again, anecdotally, that the description seems to matter a whole lot. Honestly, like we usually will use a description, like a standard description across like every video, and those videos still perform exceptionally well. So I think the title, like if you were to like put it into a pie chart, I think the title's probably like 90 to 95% of the influence, and the description is, very, very little. I think the tags, more than likely the keywords for that video, probably are also pretty influential as well. But once again, just basic page level optimization for your videos is all you really need to do. You don't do anything fancy. The biggest thing that matters the most for like video performance in search, like YouTube search, and then that video showing up in Google as well within the video packs, is going to be that transcript relevance. That's it, right? That transcript relevance plus plus the title and description. It is interesting though, in this, they didn't really mention some of the other variables for video performance. Like these are good SEO variables, but there's way bigger variables that influence a video's performance in YouTube. Number 1 is CTR within the platform itself. That is highly influential. Like everyone knows this. If you've been doing YouTube, CTR is like the biggest variable, because if there's no CTR, there's nothing, right? You have to get CTR. So CTR on the platform itself. And then once someone's actually on the video, the watch time by quantity of minutes, not the watch time percentage. So how many minutes on average are people watching your video? That is one of the biggest variables. So, which is just really a retention metric, right? So you have CTR and then you have retention on that video, and you want people to watch your videos for as long as possible. And then the third one is keeping people actually on YouTube. So this is why you'll see a lot of videos on my channel where, like, at the end of the video, I'm not like, hey, go to my website. What I'll do is I'll say, hey, make sure you watch the next video to learn how to do XYZ. Okay. The reason I'm doing that in the video is because I want people to stay on YouTube, which then increases the trust again for my channel. So YouTube likes channels that keep people on YouTube. Okay. That's what they want. They don't want people to leave. So you can have a string of videos that keep people retained on the platform, and that can help elevate your view count on YouTube. So I think these are good, obviously transcript relevance, channel authority, and then title and description, all solid things that you should do, kind of standard stuff. But the biggest variables is like creating actual good videos that people watch. Okay. That's the thing that matters the most. So that is it for episode 1 of the AI search report. So if you like this, please let me know. This is a brand new podcast that I've launched here. Drop a comment below with any questions you have. Obviously, like the video, and then subscribe, because I'm going to do my very best to get one of these out every week, just talking about kind of the developments here in AI search and SEO. And my goal is to do this weekly. So if you found this helpful, just drop me a comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.